Hello everyone, and welcome to this new update dedicated to MMOs and multiplayer games. Between new releases, updates, projects in development, and major changes in studios, the world of multiplayer games never sleeps. Whether you're a fan of PvP, guild raids, or open world exploration, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll cover the main news regarding Aion 2, Bellatores, Netmarble, Titan Quest 2, ArcheAge Chronicles, the First Descendant, and Tactan Knights of the Gods. For quick news, I've got Overwatch 2, Farlight 84, Dungeon Stalkers, PUBG Blindspot, and Towa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree. If you enjoyed the video, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up, it's always appreciated. Now that we know the lineup, it's time to dive into the news. The Studio XL Games, currently developing ArcheAge Chronicles, participated in an interview with the German media outlet Mein MMO. This interview was published on August 3, 2025. This is another opportunity for us to update our information about this new game. What I'm offering this week is a summary of the questions and answers between the German media and the South Korean studio. ArcheAge Chronicles is a new project from XL Games that stands out from traditional MMORPGs. The game presents itself as an online action RPG with a strong focus on personal progression, immersion in its universe, and a developed storyline. Unlike the original ArcheAge, this title is not centered on competition or PvP but on a more accessible narrative and cooperative experience. In the open world, players will encounter other adventurers in towns and social areas. Guilds are designed to foster cooperation rather than war or territorial domination. Dungeons are crafted for groups of 2 to 5 players with gameplay based on tactics, synergy, and coordination. The combat system is one of the game's core pillars. It is entirely action-oriented with no auto-targeting. The game will feature dynamic battles where movement, timing, dodging, blocking, and combos are essential. It offers great freedom in character development. There are no fixed classes. Players can define their role as a tank, healer, DPS, or even a hybrid based on their choices of weapons, skills, and equipment, allowing for plenty of experimentation. Progression is achieved through exploration, combat, crafting, and loot, which are central to the game's economy. The developers aim to avoid cluttered inventories filled with useless items. Every piece of equipment or crafted item should have tangible value, whether through stat bonuses, special effects, or aesthetic customization. Artisans will play a key role in this economy, creating useful and sought-after items. Player housing draws inspiration from games like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing with a cozy visual style and atmosphere. While the game doesn't offer an in-depth life simulation, housing is designed to create a sense of attachment and connection to the world, with opportunities to customize and interact with neighboring NPCs. Regarding monetization, XL Games emphasizes a strict anti-pay-to-win policy. No competitive advantages such as power or superior equipment can be purchased. They also claim to pay close attention to the game's internal economy to limit abuses like bots or gold trading, which have plagued other titles in both Western and Eastern markets in the past. I'd like to remind you that this is the studio's narrative during the interview, so it should be viewed as a communication exercise aimed at promoting the game. If you'd like to read the full article, I've provided the link in the info bar. On the side of Kakao Games, the publisher of ArcheAge Chronicles, the release is scheduled for the third quarter of 2026. The schedule I'm sharing comes from the company's latest financial report, published on August 6, 2025. In the previous schedule, ArcheAge Chronicles was planned for the first half of 2026. Kakao Games has thus delayed the estimated release window for the game. In March 2023, the South Korean company NCSoft unveiled a brand new game under the temporary name Project G. This new game was described as an MMORPG set in a colorful, fantastical universe with science fiction elements. In May 2024, the studio announced the official title of the game. Project G became Tactan Knights of the Gods. The game was being developed for PC and mobile platforms, with a planned global release between late 2025 and early 2026. Now, in August 2025, surprising news has emerged regarding the game. The South Korean company NCSoft has announced that it is halting the development of the game. The subsidiary responsible for the project, Ludius Games, will be dissolved, and employees are being offered a choice: transfer to the development of other projects or leave the company with severance packages. Employees must make their decision by early September 2025. According to the South Korean media outlet MTN, this news was announced at Ludius Games on August 7th during a special briefing for all employees. The company currently currently employs around 100 people. The decision to cancel the project was made following an internal analysis and testing. Tactan Knights of the Gods received poor evaluations from a panel of experts and was deemed unviable for further development and commercialization. In a statement, the company said, "We are rebalancing our portfolio to focus on releases planned for the second half of this year and future projects. The decision to halt development was based on an objective evaluation, including internal processes and corporate testing. We will do our utmost to reassign employees and plan to launch a transfer program to the headquarters and various subsidiaries of the company." Tactan Knights of the Gods was set to be NCSoft's first online strategy game, but ultimately it will never see the light of day. It's been a little over a year since Nexon released its cooperative looter shooter, The First Descendant. The game launched its third season on Thursday, August 7th. To mark the occasion of this new season, which introduces a host of new features, the developers participated in an interview with the Japanese media outlet 4gamer.net. The new season brings a vast open world, an 8-player raid, a new playable character, and, for example, a new vehicle, the hoverbike. Today I'm offering a summary of this interview which will allow us to update our information on the First Descendant. As a reminder, the game is available for free on PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. The PS4 and Xbox One versions were discontinued last June. The studio explained that over the past year, they've worked to bridge the gap between their initial vision for the game and the players' expectations, which were affected by systemic issues and repetitive grinding. Despite these challenges, the developers say they've made progress and aim to restore players' trust with more polished content. In the interview, the studio highlighted the difficulty of anticipating expectations for an online game and expressed being touched by the enthusiasm of players during developers' live streams. The team is committed to improving community interactions through Q&A sessions, playtests, and in-game surveys. With the new season, the studio aims to deliver a larger and more dynamic open world compared to previous zones, featuring events like the Colossus Raid designed for cinematic and accessible combat. The hoverbike vehicle facilitates exploration of this expansive area, while Neil, originally an NPC, becomes a playable character with skills tied to her role as a strategic advisor. The developer stated that they've reduced excessive grinding based on player feedback. They also plan monthly balance patches and are proud to introduce a collaboration with NIR Automata, which is well integrated into the game's universe. The team is focused on better balancing combat to offer progressive challenges while maintaining smooth gameplay, a key factor for the game's future. The Descendant Fest 2025 event will be an opportunity to strengthen ties with players and showcase new content. Here's a brief summary of the interview with the development studio behind The First Descendant. The South Korean studio NU held a closed beta for its PC MMORPG Bellatores from July 30th to August 3rd. I didn't have the chance to test the game myself as I didn't gain access. However, the Russian gaming media outlet MMO13 was able to try it out. Even better, the testers shared their opinion in a detailed article published on August 4th. I'll provide a summary of this article to give us an overview of the game's state during this closed beta. The Bellatores closed beta received mixed impressions. Designed as an open world with no loading screens, the game aims for a realistic medieval style with polished graphics. Optimization is uneven. On a PC equipped with a Ryzen 5600X processor, an NVIDIA 3070 Ti graphics card, and 32GB of RAM, the game runs at 50 to 60 frames per second on medium settings in less populated areas, but drops to 15 to 20 frames per second in villages, towns, or large-scale PvP battles, making the experience uncomfortable. The combat system is the main weak point. It feels slow and clunky. Skills have long animations, 2 to 5 seconds, cooldowns of 10 to 20 seconds, and high mana consumption. They also cannot be used while moving. Manual weapon switching and the inability to redirect certain attacks add to the sluggishness. While the 12 weapon types allow for more dynamic combinations as you progress, the overall clumsiness persists. Ping affects fluidity, but even Korean players have complained about it. Quests, mostly centered on monster farming, are repetitive, with objectives like killing 46 orcs or 96 other types of monsters in loops. Dialogues between NPCs, sometimes just a few meters apart, are frustrating, and manual loot collection slows down an already tedious farming process. The vast and varied world contains empty areas with just a few trees and bushes. Progression relies on equipment, artifacts, collections, titles, and a reputation system that replaces the traditional leveling system. Crafting is simple, requiring fixed resources, but achieving optimal stats demands multiple attempts. Collections offer modest bonuses, while the 6 activatable relics provide significant boosts. Guilds, which can have up to 100 100 members depending on their level, provide bonuses, buffs, and alliances, enhancing the community aspect. PvP, focused on factions and guilds, revolves around capturing points but lacks excitement due to visual chaos and ping issues. Despite minor bugs like enemies not spawning, a frozen interface, or stiff animations, the developers quickly fixed issues like teleportation costs or network stability. However, the lack of direct communication outside of Steam is regrettable. Not all of the game's foundations are solid. While weak PvE in the form of highly repetitive and basic quests can be forgiven in an RVR-focused game, the problematic combat raises concerns. It's not great and could turn many players away. Those who stick around to fully evaluate the game may quickly grow tired of hours spent farming if no changes are made. So far, Bellatores is a controversial MMORPG project with a minimum of fresh ideas, but with good potential for faction and guild-based PvP. It's still unclear what the final version of the game will look like if the studio successfully implements all the announced features and mechanics. This is a brief summary of the tester's opinion mentioned at the start of this news. I assume the studio will soon communicate to provide their own assessment of this closed beta. When they do, I'll be sure to share the information with you. The South Korean company Netmarble has released its financial results for the second quarter of 2025. The company reported a strong performance driven by several of its major titles and rigorous cost management. Revenue reached 717.6 billion won, approximately $523 million USD. Revenue increased by 15% compared to the previous year, though it saw a slight decline from the prior quarter. Operating profit amounted to 101.1 billion won, roughly $73 million USD, while a net profit reached 160.2 billion won, equivalent to about $117 million. Among the top performing games are Seven Knights Reverse, RF Online Next, Marvel Contest of Champions, Jackpot World, and Solo Leveling Arise. Notably, 74% of the company's revenue comes from international markets, with nearly half of that from North America alone. On the expenditure side, Netmarble continues to control costs, with operating expenses down by over 8% year-on-year, despite a slight quarterly increase. Marketing expenses rose compared to the previous quarter but remain lower than the previous year. For the second half of the year, Netmarble plans to launch 7 new games including King of Fighter, AFK, Vampire, and Stone Age Pet World. These titles will further enrich an already robust catalogue. Additionally, RF Online Next, launched in May, and Seven Knights Reverse, launched in June, will continue to receive new updates and expand into new markets including Japan, Taiwan, and other Asian countries. The company's strategy focuses on financial stability and maintaining an ambitious development pace while prioritizing game quality. Although some titles may face slight delays to ensure a higher level of polish, Netmarble aims to maintain a dynamic release schedule. Finally, the company is pursuing targeted expansion in Asian markets while enhancing overall profitability through strict resource management. Since August 1st, Grimlar Games and publisher THQ Nordic have released their new game, Titan Quest II. I should note that this is an early access release on PC. Titan Quest II is a hack-and-slash game set in a universe inspired by Greek mythology. The game can be played solo but also offers multiplayer. For now, multiplayer is limited but will be further developed in the future. This week I'm discussing Titan Quest II to share the game's roadmap. Before continuing, it's worth noting that the studio may adjust the roadmap at any time if needed. The studio plans major content updates approximately every 3 months. While not every update will include all types of content, they may feature new masteries, story chapters, character creation options, new gameplay systems, and other improvements. Between these major updates, the studio will release smaller updates. Some of these minor updates could introduce new gameplay mechanics, enhance existing ones, completely rework certain systems, or for example, add new language translations for the game. The studio also plans to provide patches as needed, along with regular updates to fix bugs, balance the game, improve quality of life, and optimize multiplayer mode. The developers also explained why they chose to release the game in early access. They stated that from the start of the project, they believed early access was the best format for developing the game in collaboration with players. According to the studio, this genre faces a highly competitive market. Releasing the game in early access and continuing development based on player feedback is, in their view, the best approach. Regarding the business model, the studio emphasizes that there will be no microtransactions or loot boxes. However, DLCs and expansions are are planned for the future. As for the release date of the full version, the studio currently aims to launch the complete game by the end of 2026. When Titan Quest II exits early access, it will also be released on Xbox and PlayStation consoles at that time. Regarding multiplayer, the studio notes that while it's available in a preview version and playable for up to 4 players, it's currently just a glimpse of what's to come. For those wondering about mounts, the answer is no. The studio believes that introducing mounts would significantly impact the game's pacing, traversal, and other mechanics. Currently, there are no plans to add PvP to the game. As for the number of masteries for characters, the studio clarifies that it hasn't yet finalized the number of masteries for the game's final version. Currently, the developers plan to include at least 6 masteries, with the possibility of adding more through DLCs or expansions. The stated goal is to offer masteries that are more versatile and impactful than those in the original Titan Quest. Finally, let's talk about the game's price. The final version will be sold for €49.99 on PC. This means the early access price of €29.99 is a discounted rate. The studio warns that the game's price will gradually increase during the early access phase. Here's a roundup of information about Titan Quest II for this week. If the game interests you, I've included the link to the official website in the info bar. The South Korean company NCSoft held a conference on its second quarter 2025 financial results and future strategy. This conference took place on Tuesday, August 12th, so it's very recent. Aion 2, one of the studio's major upcoming games, was of course discussed. First, I'll share the company's financial results, which were central to the conference. NCSoft reported a net loss of €24 million, despite an increase in revenue and operating profit in the second quarter of 2025. Despite this net loss, management noted that revenue growth and reduced expenses led to a significant increase in operating profit compared to previous periods. Regarding Aion 2, the company announced that it is launching the marketing campaign for the game, which is slated for release in South Korea in the fourth quarter of this year. As a reminder, the international release is planned for next year. A Q&A session was also held during the conference, with some questions focusing on Aion 2. Here's a brief summary of the questions and answers related to the game. Interest in Aion 2 is growing, both internally and externally, boosting confidence within the company. According to the CEO, a successful launch of Aion 2 could positively impact future games planned for next year and facilitate talent recruitment, similar to the virtuous cycle created by Squid Game for Korean content. This popularity is also attracting more investment and publishing opportunities, to the point where the company has had to turn some down. However, success will depend on the players' reception at the official launch, though tests have shown encouraging results so far. Regarding the business model, a highly anticipated topic, more details will be shared during a live stream in September, with further clarifications closer to the game's launch in South Korea. Unlike the Lineage-style games focused on PvP, Aion 2 will center on PvE and avoid excessive gacha mechanics. I should clarify that, while the game focuses on PvE, PvP is not forgotten. We've learned that the game will offer various PvP game modes. The business model will emphasize battle passes, customization, and skins, with limited pay-to-win elements to avoid negative impacts. Finally, on the topic of balancing user experience and profitability, the CEO aims to avoid an aggressive monetization model that generates a high revenue spike at launch, followed by a rapid decline. The goal is to design a sustainable business model that maintains a broad player base while striking a balance between moderate monetization and sufficient profitability. In collaboration with the business team, here's some information about NCSoft and Aion 2 for you this week. Alright, it's time to move on to our quick news segment. In this part of the video, we'll run through various updates on different games, getting straight to the point. To start, let's talk about Dungeon Stalkers, a game published and developed by One Universe. So what is Dungeon Stalkers? It's a PvPvE extraction game set in dungeons. The news this week is that the title is now available in early access, and it's free to play on Steam. If you're interested in Dungeon Stalkers, you'll find the link to its Steam page in the video's info bar. Next up, we have Towa and the Guardians of the Sacred Tree, published by Bandai Namco Entertainment and developed by Brownies. The game blends action, roguelite, and anime elements to create a unique experience. You can play solo or in co-op. The game has you take on the role of Towa and the Celestial Children in their quest to save mysterious lands threatened by the corruption of Magatsu. In a world where wonder and danger are two sides of the same coin, courage is the only path forward. The news I wanted to share about this title this week is its release date, set for September 19th. The platforms for this release are PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, and Nintendo Switch. Moving on to PUBG Blindspot, an isometric team-based shooter. Until September 2nd, the game is in open beta. If you want to participate in this open beta, it's simple. Just head to the game's Steam page. Finding the link to the Steam page is easy too. Just check the description of this video and click the link. Let's continue with Farlight 84, published and developed by Farlight Games. What is Farlight 84? In short, it's a battle royale that can host up to 60 players per match. This month, the studio rolled out a major global update, which they describe as a true reboot of the game. According to the developers, after 6 years of development and over $140 million in investment, they've created the most advanced and feature-rich version of the game yet. One of the key innovations is a dedicated first-person view mode, making the game feel even more like Apex Legends. I won't go into details since this is quick news, but you can find a link to the official website in the info bar, where you'll get all the details you need. I'll also remind you that the game is free to play, available on PC and mobile. Now let's move to Overwatch 2, Blizzard's hero shooter. The next hero, the 44th playable character, is named Wu Yang and will officially arrive with Season 18 on August 26th. This new playable character is an aquatic support hero. However, you won't have to wait until August 26th to try them out. That's the news for Overwatch 2 this week. Until August 18th, the new hero is temporarily available in the game, so if you want to test this new character before their official release next season, just log in to Overwatch 2. And that's it, dear gamer friends. We've reached the end of this video on the latest news about MMOs and multiplayer games. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up and leave a little comment below. It's always appreciated. Plus, it helps with the video's visibility completely for free, so go for it. Now it's time for me to wish you awesome gaming sessions, no matter which game you're playing, because the most important thing here is to have fun.